Good morning, folks. I'm Greg Canfield, Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost here, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you here today, those who are in person and the many more who are online. As you know, the Delta variant put some kinks in our fondest hopes that things would be very easy this coming year. And so we are focusing our in-person time on our core functions for the most part of teaching and research. And events like this, we are trying to either do completely online or in a low-density approach. So, only about a quarter, I suspect, of the audience is here in my presence. I have been finding about half of my meetings now are in person, and I'm learning all sorts of strange things about what's happened to my brain in COVID. And one of them is that the blur, the every day is blurs day, that is going away. I'll find that I'm in a meeting and I know where people are actually sitting, and that makes it stick in my memory. The big problem, though, is that part of my brain that remembers names has totally atrophied. I'm used to just being able to read everyone's names on the screen, and now I see someone I know really well, and it's like, and then I pretend I don't recognize them. I'm getting good at reading eyes. It's important because who knows what faces people are making behind the mask? The eyes don't lie. Anyway, thanks for being here, either virtually or in person. It's my pleasure today to introduce Chancellor Juan Sánchez Muñoz in his first campus address. Now, while he arrived a bit over a year ago, the pandemic restrictions made that year truly strange. And I have to say, I think he had incredible courage to come here in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, can you imagine being responsible for high-stakes decisions when you know almost nobody? You haven't had a chance to go out and meet people and really get a feel for the campus culture and create the connections that are necessary to be able to do the job. And yet he soldiered through it in ways that I find frankly astonishing. I'm also really impressed by how well connected he is across the landscape of higher education. And those connections, to my mind, are going to yield this campus tremendous results. What I've seen already in the people he has brought to leadership via Zoom, I'm learning a great deal about opportunities in higher education, resources to use to help guide me in the work I'm doing, and we owe that to Chancellor Muñoz's incredible connections. A little bit about him. I'm sure you've seen the press reports before, but I think it's really important to recognize that he is a Californian, despite the fact that he drives a Texas truck. We'll get him into a Prius pretty soon. Okay. But we got to get more charging stations on campus, all right? All right. So his bachelor's degree is from Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara. His PhD is from UCLA, and his first faculty position was at Cal State Fullerton. He moved to Texas as an associate professor and went to Texas Tech, and almost immediately they figured out, we can rope this guy into administration and really move things forward. Now, I want you to know that Texas Tech is huge, and the name Tech tells you something about the focus of the institution. You would have expected it to have been an R1 long ago. It was not. It became an R1 when our Chancellor Muñoz was there, and he was let's see if I can get that title correct, Senior Vice President, right? Senior Vice President of Texas Tech. That's when they crossed that threshold. And he was instrumental in setting up some of the fundamental pieces of how the campus moved forward. Now, I think then that it's not really a surprise that he came to us, to come back to the University of California, where his roots are, but also to come to the newest, the most diverse, the UC that's the striving one, that's the one that's shaking things up and doing things differently. And I think what he brings to us is going to be really important. And I know that some of what he's brought to us has already borne excellent fruit. And I know that he's going to talk about some of that today. So with that, I give you our fourth chancellor, Juan Sánchez Muñoz.
Thank you, Provost Canfield, for that very generous introduction. I was happy to receive it, as I am the suggestions regarding the Tesla. And in West Texas, when it rains, it's always auspicious. It's very much welcomed in that particular part of the country. This morning on my run, Bear Creek, I was greeted with some moisture. So I was optimistic about the day and these remarks. It's a delight to be with you here today to share a bit of the achievements that are rightfully yours over the last year. So guests, members of our community, friends of the University of California, Merced, faculty, staff, and any students present, I'm delighted to be here with you today to share this, my first in-person campus address. Thank you. Once again, we have the largest enrollment in the university's history following a record year of applications. Once again, we have been recognized as a top 100 institution and a top 40 public university. Our faculty have received millions of dollars in research grants to push the boundaries of science, humanities, and the arts at UC Merced and well beyond. And in the last year, we have exceeded all records for university fundraising, supported by the largest single gift in our history. So, colleagues and friends, I tell you proudly and confidently, the state of UC Merced is in fact exceptional. However, I also recognize the ongoing challenges that we have faced, indeed that the world has faced, during a pandemic that continues to challenge us daily. It tests our will, it tests our strength, it tests our hope. But our resolve and our commitment to our mission and to our people will not falter. Our staff and faculty have shown great courage and tireless effort in pivoting to remote learning while still providing a first-class educational experience and then pivoting back to re-establish a traditional residential in-person teaching and learning community. This community has been further supported by a collective vaccination and policy compliance rate approaching almost 100% for students, faculty, and staff at UC Merced, and that allows us to be here together in this way. Our colleagues, again, have done all of this in some cases while battling their own illnesses, while caring for loved ones, while facing personal losses. From those who clean the halls, those who clear the weeds, those who feed our students at the pavilion, those who keep our campus safe, those who are maintaining our educational technology, the faculty and instructors who teach our courses, and those who conduct world-class research at UC Merced, each and every one of you deserve our deepest admiration and gratitude, and you have it. Now we see some light at the end of this long tunnel. There are so many whose particular accomplishments and contributions deserve special attention, but today I will note a few as emblematic of the passion, drive, and excellence of our entire campus community. Among the faculty, let me mention a few. Professor Azmarit Beher, one of the leading, did I hear somebody? Oh, okay, all right, okay. Thank you, Ms. Matos, yes. One of the leading soil scientists in the world and has been nominated by President Biden to direct the Office of Science for the U.S. Department of Energy. Following her committee hearing earlier this year, we and she await approval of the final of the U.S. Senate on her appointment. Professor Maya Tokman and Angelo Kirilov, who this year opened the Kids Discovery Station, the first children's museum in the history of Merced, introducing young people to the rewarding lives and careers that can flow from engagement with science and technology. And I also understood that my predecessor, Chancellor Dorothy Leland, provided some initial seed funding, which is not surprising given her vision for this particular project and this particular children's museum. And my wife, just as a personal aside, she went and visited it, and she asked me, when are you going to support that museum? So now I'm on the record, and I think it's being recorded. So thank you. But also we have faculty like Tracy Osborne and of the Gallo Management Program, who has been named to lead the new University of California system-wide Center for Climate Justice. Oh, thank you. And Professor Laura Hamilton, and I need to get this right, who is the chair of my academic department. So sociology with postdoctoral scholar Kelly Nielsen. They published a widely acclaimed book, and it was called Broke, earlier this year. And I've read that particular book, and it's an important piece of scholarship exploring the great funding challenges for public universities that serve first-generation, low-income minority student populations. I'd say it has relevance for UC Merced. And while there are so many more distinguished faculty who I could mention, just allow me now to highlight a few of our exceptional staff. And let me begin by recognizing Andrew Boyd, who many of us know, who serves as our Chief Resilience Officer and who has helped to guide the campus through this COVID emergency, our response and our recovery. And I think being here is indicative of that recovery. Now, I will tell you, if you know Andy, you know how conscientious he is. He texted me this morning indicating that he still wasn't feeling completely well and that he would be looking, I guess, through the internet, but that he would spare us from any possible exposure. So I want to recognize him. I want to thank him for his conscientiousness always. But we should also recognize as well, not only Andy, but also the entire COVID Response Center. And the numerous faculty, staff, and students who have been honored by their peers as Big Cat heroes, okay, for their individual effort to help our community. So these are, and there were many more people who were nominated and it's important that we recognize people publicly, what they do publicly and what they do privately that we are often unaware of, and we want to thank them for all the things that they do. Another staff member, Brian Obrubra, is the director of our Leadership Service and Career Center, and this spring organized a consortium of 14 Hispanic serving institutions across the country for an online career summit. He connected hundreds of students and alumni with networking opportunities with top employers such as AstraZeneca, Levi Strauss, Toyota, Deloitte, Ford, and that small company, Microsoft. Assistant Vice Chancellor Martin Reed and the entire housing team at UC Merced worked tirelessly to rapidly accommodate hundreds of students suddenly in need of housing following a delay in access to their off-campus housing. Martin and his entire team, as well as Dr. Neese and his leadership, helped accommodate hundreds of students in a very short period of time. Extraordinary. Then I'd like to recognize a few people in our diversity areas. Cynthia Cortez, Hala Alamagar, are they here? Okay. Onar Primitivo, Yesenia Curiel, and the entire team in our Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, who have coordinated valuable community projects such as our People First effort, our Valuing Black Lives Matters, our Valuing Black Lives Task Force, and who recently helped to secure the Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award from Insight into Diversity magazine. And we want to thank them for their leadership as well. Now, I'd also like to acknowledge a few who have stepped onto and into the campus leadership roles in recent months. I'd like to recognize Stella Nye, our new Chief Campus Counsel. And I'd like to recognize Patrick Lenz, who is our interim vice provost and chief operating officer. Now, and I'd like to I'm going to say something about Patrick. When you walk by the little lake and you see the fountain, that was Patrick Lenz, who has been working on that and pledged to me, he said, you will have it working by the date of the address, and he fulfilled his promise. Kurt Schneer, our longtime faculty member and former president of the Senate, is interim vice chancellor and chief financial officer. Shanita Manuel, interim director of human resources, and of course, newest member of the team, Cecil Howard, our interim chief diversity officer, sitting right over here. So we want to thank them for stepping in and helping, and as the provost said, during a particularly difficult time, but also, as you will continue to hear, a very rewarding time, an exhilarating time, an optimistic time. The university has begun formal search processes to fill most of these positions and will shortly undertake further searches. These men and women have agreed to assume critical roles during a challenging period and have done so admirably, serving UC Merced, and we owe them as well a great debt of our gratitude. And of course, our students continue to inspire. And let me give you a few examples. Students such as PhD candidate Shania Bennett, our first UC Grand Slam champion. Okay. The Grand Slam is a faculty-judged UC-wide competition for graduate students that provides research funding for the top finisher. So this is all of the UC. This is Berkeley, this is UCLA, and of course, UC Merced prevailed. So there it is. Also, master student Selena Brinkman, who was named our first Rhodes Scholar last fall. Provost takes particular pride. Rhodes Scholar, who will conduct doctoral work at that university, Oxford, on wind and marine energy. And then there is another student we'd like to recognize, Merced native Kyle Shen, who is a 2018 graduate and who last fall entered the San Joaquin Valley Prime program in medical education. We call it the SJV Prime. And as part of that program, hopes to begin eventually, once he completes his medical education, to practice medicine here in his hometown of Merced. And it started at UC Merced. How about that? Thank you, Guillermo. This spring, we set a record for student applications, more than 30,000 students like the ones I just mentioned. This fall, we enrolled the largest first-year class in the 16-year history of UC Merced. Our enrollment now is nearly 9,100 students with a plan to grow to 15,000 by 2030. Our successes have been recognized by organizations that rank us high on a global and national level. U.S. News & World Report continues to list us among the top 100 universities in the United States, at 93 among all national universities. Thousands of colleges and universities across the country, and we are ranked 93 in 16 years. And 38th among public schools. That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. We have earned similar praise from Forbes magazine, Washington Monthly, and the Princeton Review. No doubt, a great number of our prospective students are drawn to UC Merced by these accolades, as well as by the successes of students like Shana, Selena, and Kyle. But we are also aggressively pursuing partnerships that not only continue to grow our national reputation, but also help us to fulfill a founding principle of UC Merced, and that is being in the valley and for the valley. Yes? Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Provost Canfield. So let me give you a few examples of those initiatives. Last fall, with Merced College President Chris Vitelli, we launched the Merced Promise, which will speed the transfer of students between our institutions. Imagine that, something as simple as that. The promise that if you go to school here, continue at Merced College, you have the promise and opportunity to complete your education at UC Merced, maybe go on to medical school, Rhodes Scholar, etc. This spring, with Merced Union High School District, we announced the Merced Automatic Admissions Program, the MAP. ensuring that students from local high schools who meet the University of California criteria are eligible upon graduation to attend UC Merced to not only pursue a UC education in their community, but to also possibly remain here to serve their community. Our dedication to to the success of our region is, of course, at the center of so much of what we do. And let me give you a few examples of how we try to enrich the lives of those in and around the university across the San Joaquin Valley. Our virtual children's opera gave 25,000 elementary school children from Bakersfield to Stockton their first taste of UC Merced through an interactive art experience in their classrooms. Our health initiatives, such as a public vaccination clinic, co-sponsored, again, with partners like Merced College, Merced County, Dignity Mercy Medical, helped to vaccinate over 1,000 people in Merced. We should also acknowledge our faculty and their research, some of which is examining the disparate impact of COVID in farm worker communities throughout the valley. The things that we do improve the lives of the people in and around Merced, across the San Joaquin Valley, and well beyond our campus. Our sought-after researchers' work also focuses on preventing and battling wildfires that have become increasingly dangerous to California, to our economy, and to our nation's future, and have been clearly noticeable in our skies recently. The work that we do here changes lives. Our economic impact in the San Joaquin Valley, documented by an independent analysis last fall at over $500 million across the region and over $370 million in Merced County for the year 2018-19. And our economic benefit across the valley and its people, it's just not about the dollars, it's about the lives and the families that those dollars enrich and improve. And it starts here at this institution, and it will only continue to grow, and these families will prosper as the university prospers. We intend, of course, to continue to find ways to serve the community with the guidance of our new community advisory group, as well as local and state government leaders, more and more of whom are coming to UC Merced to see why UC Merced is so much on the rise. And let me give you a few examples. Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis was here not long ago to learn more about our research on water and climate change. Lourdes Castro Ramirez, State Secretary of Business, Consumer Services, and Housing, was here not long ago to meet with local officials about strategizing ways to increase affordable housing in Merced and Merced County. Given what happened at the beginning of the semester, relevant, affordable housing here, not just in Merced, but the San Joaquin Valley. And then a few weeks ago, we were privileged to have U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, who was eager to hear more about our partnership with UC San Francisco and Fresno toward expanding medical education in the Valley. And this is something that was always promised to the Valley with the positioning of UC Merced in Merced, that eventually it would be an institution that helped prepare the medical practitioners and professionals that would care for the people of the Valley. And we intend to do just that. This prioritization of our community and our region takes pride of place in our first ever strategic plan that will be released in full today. The result of months of discussion and collaboration among faculty, staff, students, and many external partners, the strategic plan calls upon UC Merced to focus its next 10 years of investment and growth on 3 broad goals. And just a moment of privilege to recognize the leadership of Provost Canfield in this particular document that will be our North Star to R1. We will engage the world and region through discovery and advancement of knowledge. We will develop future scholars and leaders. We will cultivate a culture of dignity and respect for all. These are the principles of our strategic plan. Central to this effort is our ambitious drive to be recognized as an R1 university in the Carnegie Classification Institution of Higher Education, signifying the very highest research activity. And I am fully committed to achieving this. We are the youngest university ever to be named R2, and we hope to attain the top ranking within the next decade. This will require sustained and disciplined focus on enhancing our research faculty, our facilities, our funding, our staff, and our investment. I know what I'm saying right now, and I am absolutely committed to doing so. We have in the last few weeks done more, and we will do more yet. This is the goal, to be R1 in all things, in research, access, equity, inclusive excellence. And we're going to get there with all of your support. We will continue to introduce new areas of study at UC Merced, this year alone announcing new majors in astrophysics and civil engineering. And we will continue to work toward the formalization of our Gallo School of Management, and well as our BS to the MD program, which will admit its first cohort of undergraduates in the fall of 2023. Just imagine that. You can graduate from Chowchilla, Madera, Livingston, Merced, begin your bachelor's degree at UC Merced, and move right into your medical education starting in fall of 2023. That is the power of the UC. Our external partners in government as well as private philanthropy have been tremendously supportive, recognizing that investing in the work of UC is investing in our shared future. These include supporters like the Kamagar family, the Thondapu family, and many others who have endowed professorships in fields critical to our students' education and our university's momentum. They also include donors like Dr. Vikram and our colleague Priya Lakareddy. I'm not sure, is Priya here? Hi, Priya. Who adorn, we see that, whose names adorn the grand ballroom where we gather here today, whose generosity will be celebrated at a major event in the spring. But you see these wonderful letters here. We were up all night shining them. No. Our benefactors also include, of course, supporters in the California legislature. And I'd like to recognize a few in particular. Through the vigorous efforts of Assembly Member Adam Gray, we have secured the first ever $10 million direct appropriation to UC Merced, which will allow us to support a new center, the Center for Analytic Political Engagement, or CAPE, which will focus on advancing responsible civic participation. Imagine how appropriate. Thank you, Provost. This center will be led by Professors Jessica Traustine and Nate Monroe and serve as a critical new voice in concert with other established organizations, including the Maddie Institute, of which, of course, UC Merced is a partner. This state funding will also support our ambitious agricultural and technology ambitions. Professor Tom Harmon and Josh Veers will lead that effort, including the development of our first ever experimental farm adjacent to the campus. And through the work of Senator Ana Caballero and Assembly Member Joaquin Orambula, the state also appropriated $30 million for a coalition, of which we are a part, that includes partners at Fresno State, UC Agricultural and Natural Resources, or UCANR, and the Central Valley Community Foundation for the Fresno to Merced Future of Food Initiative. And that's $30 million that will be shared across us, these particular groups, and hopefully will be the basis for other appropriations to rethink the nature of food and labor and technology necessary to help feed our country and the world. And Senator Caballero has additionally secured important funding for our Community and Labor Center, which researches pressing issues of labor and employment in the California national economies and also looks at the lives of farm laborers. And I can tell you, as a son of a man who worked in the fields in Delano, the DiGiorgio farms when they existed, this has particular relevance for me. We also count among our strongest allies U.S. Representative Jim Costa, without whose tireless efforts to advance UC Merced, we would not be as successful as we are today. His office has helped us to navigate federal offices like NASA, the USDA, and the National Science Foundation. And just recently, we received news that our faculty, including the professors I mentioned, Josh Fears and Tom Harmon, will share in a $10 million grant from the USDA to improve agriculture and environmental water resiliency. And this is the largest federal grant in UC Merced's history. Exciting things happening here. Also today, in alignment with campus feedback and a focused interest from students, staff, and our academic senate, I am announcing that we will form a new research entity, Tanya, called the Center for Research, Equity, Anti-Racism, and Transformative Engagement. Or CREATES. This center will serve as an all-encompassing hub of intellectual diversity and dynamic engagement around the intersecting topics of equity, race, gender, class, and social justice. This center, CREATES, will bring together an interdisciplinary group of scholars and community members committed to understanding the emergence and persistence of social inequities from multiple perspectives, particularly those relevant to the San Joaquin Valley. This is an important step forward. I want to recognize your role in making it happen, Danya. And of course, we must acknowledge other supporters like the global philanthropist Mackenzie Scott and her husband Scott Jewett, who this summer announced a $20 million gift to UC Merced. We always clap for 20 million, yes. Ms. Scott, one of the world's wealthiest individuals, has pledged to donate the vast majority of her wealth to make a difference in the world. And this year, her donations focused on high-impact organizations of vision and in communities that have been historically overlooked and underfunded. And while we will continue to consult with campus partners about how to best leverage portions of this one-time gift, we have made several initial decisions about how to begin investing in ways that uphold the values of UC Merced, are aligned with our strategic plan, and serve in the spirit of the gift to help transform our institution. So, today I am announcing that in consultation with the Academic Senate and other campus partners, we will use this gift to create 3 new $1 million presidential endowed professorships. By leveraging matching funds from the Office of the President, these endowed professorships will focus on the scholarship that helps to advance diversity, equity, and social justice from various disciplines. Additionally, I am announcing that we will match the $1.3 million in funds that have been raised by the UC Merced Foundation to begin the planning and construction of the long-desired demonstration and engagement pavilion at the site of the former Virginia Smith Trust barn just outside of campus. While the barn is irreplaceable, the new pavilion will serve as a gathering place to preserve our rich history and heritage through environmental stewardship and conservation. It will also enhance our student experience and K-12 outreach and engagement efforts, bringing students to our campus and to making them aware of their important role in the preservation of our natural environment. And then finally, I am also pledging to provide, I think I saw Hai Pong in the back row. So this one's for you, Hai Pong. I'm pledging to provide the university library with $750,000 in matching funds should it be successful in its application for a grant to the National Endowment of the Humanities. We're optimistic that you will prevail, and if successful, it's $1 for $1, And the combination will be a $1.5 million fund to help establish an archive documenting the Central Valley and Sierra Nevada. Today, I am also announcing that we will invest a sizable portion of this gift directly in campus constituencies over the next several years. And let me tell you how. $1 million will be provided to the Academic Senate for its uses to be determined that advance the university and our faculty initiatives. $1 million will be directed to the Staff Assembly, an equal amount, for uses that benefit the institution and the success of our staff. Next, $1 million will be used to support student groups, organizations, and initiatives important to them and to the university, and this effort will be managed by our Division of Student Affairs and Vice Chancellor Dr. Neese. Additionally, $1 million will be supplied to our 3 deans of our 3 schools and director of the proposed Gallo School of Management to support, at their discretion, consistent with our strategic plan and values and spirit of the gift, to support faculty, staff, and students and initiatives aligned with what I just described and in the service of the university. And finally, $1 million will be used to create the first ever campus public art fund, helping UC Merced become both an aesthetic and intellectual destination place. We will consult with the Academic Senate, Staff Assembly, Student Affairs, and student groups and organizations to establish guidelines and criteria for these commitments in keeping with the values of the university, in alignment with its new strategic plan, and in the spirit of the gift to be transformative. Okay. As important as these commitments are and the initiatives they will support are, a thorough review of their efficacy and impact will be conducted once these funds are completely programmed. And those that prove to be transformative, those uses and those areas by the Senate, the Assembly, the deans, that prove to be demonstrably transformative will then be permanently funded in the future. This is the formula for sustained transformation. It has to be guided by vision, values, commitment, and consistency. The remainder of the gift will be placed in our endowment until we are able to cultivate suitable matching gifts to further leverage these one-time funds. In the future, there will be more announcements as we identify new ways to invest Ms. Scott's generosity for the future of UC Merced. All of these initiatives support the university's continued upward trajectory and our moral obligation to invest and uplift the San Joaquin Valley and beyond. We are investing in the future of the nation's most productive agricultural region. We are investing in the future of work and of the workers. We are investing in the future of our people. We are investing in our students, the future leaders of the world. UC Merced colleagues, friends, faculty, the state of the university is indeed exceptional. And because of our shared vision, our shared values, and our shared effort, our shared future is boundless. Thank you very much. Fiat Lux, and go Cats. I still have something to do. Thank you, Provost Canfield. Now, finally, I'd like to just take a moment of privilege, if I may, to recognize my colleague, our former colleague, Danya Matos, former Associate Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and now Vice Chancellor, Equity, Division, and Inclusion at, what's that school? Oh, yes, Berkeley, yes. Danya joined us from William and Mary College in 2019 as Merced's inaugural Chief Diversity Officer. She helped to create a structure and culture that laid the foundation for so much of what we will do in the future, including the center that I just described earlier. And critical input to our strategic plan. Danya, thank you for joining us today and for all you did here at Merced, and we look forward to hosting you again, along with your recently retired colleagues, Elizabeth Gunther and Mike McLeod, that we will invite to a ceremony, to an appropriate ceremony in the spring. And now I'd like to invite you up and give you a small gift. And if you'd like to say a few words.
Please. Hi. Let me take it all in. It is so good to be with you and so good to be home. Whenever UC Merced calls, I change all arrangements to be there. Well, y'all are making a good case for a girl to come back, by the way. I was like, wow, do I get $1 million? No. Thank you, Chancellor Muñoz. You've been so instrumental, not only in my leadership here, but in my journey. And we often talk about legacy building and how we do it. And you're leading by example, so thank you for that. Thank you, Provost Campfield. You helped me so long about the journey. I was raised to say, don't forget who you are, where you came from, and everyone that helped you along the way. And I see so many faces there. So please know that that school that shall remain nameless is not so far, but I'm always, Merced will always have a place for my heart, and I always be here. Thank you for the recognition. And congratulations, Bobcat proud always.
And now, if you would permit me, we'd like to end today's program by sharing a brief clip from yesterday's State of the University address and conferral of the Chancellor's Medal to Dr. Hemnareddy Lakareddy, one of the university's founding and longest standing supporters. And we just thought that you would enjoy hearing his remarks as he received this award. He was such an early benefactor and supporter of the institution, as just a reminder of the kind of humanity that has invested themselves in our enterprise here and everything that we're capable of achieving. So I will leave you with Dr. Lakareddy.
Good afternoon. I wanted to thank our Chancellor. Even though he's Chancellor to everybody, all these people, but to me, he's a next door neighbor. That's extraordinary. Even the Carol, the first Chancellor, was a next door neighbor to me from the day she started here. It's a thank you very much, sir. Thank you for honoring me and this. It's, as he said, I was born in a little village during the British days in India without any, I never saw the electric light until I went to college in the city. And we never had anything, but still, the God gave me the word education. That's the only thing that got me here. I went from that little village, went on to medical school when I was 18 years old. And from there, after the medical school, I came to America. I came to Merced 44 years ago. And for the last 43 years, I have been working and paying taxes every year continuously. That's the greatness of this country. The greatness of this country is you work and pay the taxes, you are a good man. That's the most important. That's my opinion. Whoever you are, you work and pay the taxes, you are a good person for the country. That's my opinion. You know, long time ago, everybody knows, most of you people know, 17 years ago, this is a very funny story. The campus going to be here, Merced University, and then in March of 2005, they were trying to raise the money for the UC opening ceremony function. And John Mendenhall and Carol, Chancellor the Carol, All these people were trying to raise the money, and his daughter Chiara was the leader of that money raising business. So very funny story. I asked Chiara and John Mendenhall, why are you asking 55,000, 10,000 from everybody? Why can't the UC pay the money for the university opening function? Then Carol said, no, we don't want to pay the government money. Then I told her, here is a deal. The deal is, I'll pay for everything. You don't have to ask any money from anybody else. But two conditions. One condition is the UC opening function will be in my backyard. That's number one. Number two, you all people have to be prepared to eat Indian food. And Carol said, the chancellor said, we'll be more than happy to eat Indian food if you pay $100,000. So I was so proud and I'm so happy. And then my son Vikram and Priya got married the same year before. And actually in Indian weddings, they put flower garlands around the necks. We got flower garlands made at the temple, got them, and we gave garlands to Chancellor and her husband. And I told them on the stage, you look like Indian bride and groom. The Chancellor, it's so great. I'm so grateful to her. It was wonderful. She, her husband, and Dean of the Engineering School, they went all the way to my little village in remote India. She went to my high school, my elementary school, my home, and she had a lunch at my home 15 years ago, before she retired from here. It's a wonderful lady. I still remember her. I'm grateful to her. That's amazingly, she went all the way to my village, to my birthplace, to visit my place. Or at that time, I was wondering whether was she trying to check whether I was telling the truth or not. Whatever it is, it was a great honor for me and my family. Thank you, sir. I'm very happy. I think a lot of the parents feel so proud, like me, to see the name of my son and my daughter-in-law. And my daughter-in-law is, I think she's a force behind that too. Thank you. Even though me and my son, we work and make the money, but we need the cooperation of those two people. That's the most important thing. I think every man knows that. Anyway, I really thank you very much, sir. It's a wonderful honor. Thank you very much for doing this to me. And we'll continue to do what we can. I believe in education is the easiest way to get better in the world. Otherwise, without that little education, I would have been nobody in that little village in India. And I'm somebody here in this country, the great country of America. America is the greatest place in the world, and I'm very proud I am here. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.